Hello, you're watching a tutorial video. Today I'm going to do a deep dive on the AI macros. Your AI macros are here under AI articles. So your first box is your article prompts. Anything in this text box is sent to your AI writer as instructions. So let's go over how this works. So here is our article default prompt that's loaded when we create a new task. If you want to load prompts, you can click on the load button. Here's some other default prompts. If you want to add prompts, you can add templates using this interface here. Let's have a good close look at what is inside the article prompts. The first thing you'll notice is these orange square brackets. So these are matched. Anything within these square brackets are sent to the AI writer as instructions. If I were to add some plain text at the very top here, you notice that I didn't surround it with the orange bracket. So this will actually be output to my text file straight as is. So when I run this task, it's going to print hello world at the very top. Now there's two things that are happening in this semi-complex prompt. The first thing you see are these two purple colored macros. So these macros are used by the AI writer to create your dynamic prompts. So the first two should be pretty easy to figure out. It says keyword, and what keyword refers to is your current article keyword. When this task runs, it's going to look at the first keyword, which is what is green tea, and it's going to make that replacement into this macro here. And language is going to take the current language that you set in your regional language. In this task, it's actually going to be English. When it first runs, it's going to say write an article using the keyword what is green tea in English. Now if I were to add another keyword, and let's say it's red lemon, it's going to run what is green tea first. Then when it goes down to the second keyword, it's going to go to write an article using the keyword red lemon in English. Now as we look further down the prompt, you notice that these squiggly symbols here, which are spin text. And inside this spin text you have use bullet points or numbered lists, FAQs. It's got a bracket and it's got a section which you can't see very well, but it's blank. So what this spin text does is it allows the article prompt to generate dynamically. So it has two options. It can insert this text that says use bullet points, or it can just insert nothing, so it'll be blank. So when this prompt runs, there's a random chance that it's going to insert the text to create bullet points, or it's not. Now when it comes to macros, there is a list of usable macros here in this list. Language keyword, related keyword, and this is just a reminder that your prompts can be placed in brackets. You can also generate images using this special image source prompt. Now if I click on this, you see it actually inserts it where I last left my cursor. Now on the right here are your scraped macros. Before you can use any of these scraped content macros, you need to make sure that when I scroll down here, you need to make sure that under scraper, search result limit is bigger than 0. Now if I set it to 0 and I scroll back up, you see that it says search result limit is 0 and I can't insert any scraped content into my article now. See, it's blanked out. But these macros are still available, just know that it's not going to return any content. So let's set this back to a number, 21 will be fine. Now the UI is updated, so this is now no longer disabled. So going back to scraped, so we have the option of inserting scraped title, there's body, paragraph, sentence, images, videos, and if you are using Google search, you can insert people also ask questions and answers. Now that I've deleted my prompt, it's giving me two warnings. The first one is telling me that I haven't used any prompts, which is correct. And the other one is I'm missing macros, which is important for creating dynamic prompts. So these are just two reminders. So let's go over some use cases for scraped content. So one common popular one is I want to use questions from Google, but use the AI writer to create content for it. First of all, I need to insert a macro, and I need to insert the scraped macro for people also ask question. Answer this question. Now with Google people also ask, it's possible that the question doesn't include the keyword, and if that's the case, the AI writer may provide a wrong answer. I can make sure this is never the case by inserting the keyword after. Now I'm going to run this task and we can preview the result to see how it works. The task has finished running. You see that it's found 24 people also ask for my keyword, what is green tea? Now this is important because if the people also ask return 0 results, my macro is going to have trouble running properly. I'm going to click on preview article. So here's the answer provided by the AI writer. You'll notice, however, that it's missing the question, so we don't know what was being asked. Now that I've covered the basic usage of article prompts and macros, let's go on to the next level of complexity, which is coming to be using these user variables. So what is a user variable? It's a way for you to define and create your own macros. So just like language and keyword, we can create our own ones. In the example that's in the textbook, it has one for title. But going back to our people also ask demo, we wanted to include the question above the answer. If we were to take this macro and paste it at the top here, you might think we'd get the question at the top and the answer at the bottom. However, this actually won't work because every time the PAA question macro is being used, it's actually grabbing a new question from the question list. So this in effect is asking for question 1, and then now we're saying this is question 2. When you run this prompt, you actually come with a bit of a logic problem as the question won't match your answer. Now one way to fix this is to use user variables. So if we were to go down to our user variables section, let's create a new variable called Q1. Notice I have to use the same macro syntax, which is to use these percentage signs. And now I need to use an equal sign. You'll see once I put in the equal that it's found my user variable and it's giving me a useful, helpful message that says my variable Q1 is currently unused in my prompt. Now for my variable, I want to use the scraped question. So what I've done now is I've tagged the first PAA question into my Q1 macro. So now when I go back to my article prompt and I can replace this with my Q1 macro, what I've done effectively is I've frozen my first question to this Q1 macro. Now when I take my Q1 macro and paste it in the top, I avoid the problem of having two different questions. What I've done in my user variable is I've assigned the first question to Q1, and instead of reading from the question list twice, instead I'm just going to my user variable Q1 here at the top and then once again into my prompt. Now let's run this and see what the output is. Now the task has finished running. I'm going to click on the preview article button again, and now we can see that our question has been provided on top. What is better, coffee or tea? And we can see the answer at the bottom here, and indeed the answer does talk about caffeine in coffee and also about green tea. Going back to the task properties, let's do a quick recap. So we are using user variables. We defined one called Q1, which points to a people also ask question. And by setting as a variable, we are allowed to reuse the output of this question, both at the top here in the heading, and once again as a prompt sent to the AI writer. Now with user variables, you don't have to use scraped or macro codes in them. You can actually create your own prompt. And let's say I do another example, Q3, and it's possible actually for me just to write in a question. What I've demonstrated here are the three types of user variables. The first is a user variable that just uses a macro code, and we have another user variable that contains the output of an AI prompt. And then we have finally another user variable which is just plain text, which I've typed into this box here. When I go back to my article prompt, I can see my two new variables which are now currently being used inside the prompt text. So let's fix that. For Q2, we're going to get the AI written question. And for number 3, it will print out exactly this plain text here. So let's run this and see the result. So as you can see, we've now got a different question being asked and answered by AI writer. If you remember, this is question 2, so this was the question generated by the AI writer. And this is question 3, which is the one which I typed in myself. So let's move on to another possible use case you might have. You want to create an article that uses just scraped content, but you want the title to be written by the AI. Now I specified I want to use scraped content, so I'm going to put in some scraped content, 5 to 7 paragraphs of content into my article. Now if I were to run this task as it was, my scraped content is going to be inserted randomly into my article. Now if I want more control about its location, I want to use the scrape body macro. And the reason why is because I want to insert a title. My title is going to be in h1 tags. Now I want my title to be generated by the AI. So I'm going to open brackets for a macro and use keyword, create a title. Now if I deleted scrape body content, so I have some footer text. So if I were to run this particular example without my scrape body macro, my 5 to 7 paragraphs of content will randomly appear anywhere within this article between this h1 tag and the end of this footer. So I might actually have content appear here, and I might actually have a couple paragraphs of content appear under the footer, which is not what I want in my example. Now to ensure that my footer content stays at the bottom, I'm going to have to use the scrape body macro. So let's run this and preview the result. So the output of my last AI prompt was to have one title at the top, which is what I've got. And now we have 5 to 7 paragraphs of scraped content. And because we use the body macro, you see that our footer has correctly been placed at the bottom. Now let's say we delete scraped body and we run this prompt again with just the random paragraph insert. Once again, we have our inserted h1. Now we're starting to see our paragraph content, 1, 2, and here we go. Our footer has appeared in the middle of our article, and under it, a couple more paragraphs of content. So that demonstrates the difference between using scrape body macro and just doing random inserts. As a final demonstration, let's consider the use case of getting the AI writer to create an outline of an article and use that outline and feed it back into the AI writer to write an article for us. Now the way to do it is to use user variables once again. So let's open a new macro called outline, and we are going to tell the AI writer to create an outline of an article for, and once again, macro keyword. Because we are using outline, we don't forget to use it again in the article prompt. Write an article using this outline. And to save some time, we can click on this button here and it will insert our missing user variable. Now let's run this and see the output. So here is our written article. Let's go look on the right hand side because it's a bit easy to see. So it's got introduction, composition green tea. What we see, it has written an article based on an outline. Of course, we can't see what that original outline was, but if you wanted to check what that original outline is, you can always paste it at the top here, like so. Now when we run this prompt, we'll see the original outline and we can see the article that was created by the AI writer. Just one tip about using the outline like this, you might find it's even easier if you want to spend some extra time to use user variables to create your own outline. So you might want to do sub1, a heading for keyword. So what we have here is subheading number 1, and we want to write an article using subheading 1. And let's say for this section, we want to use a h3 tag. And instead of just writing another article, we can be a bit more fancy and say create a list using sub2. In essence, we've created our own custom outline, which is only possible by shuffling these two subheadings into their own user variable. And then we are using these user variables again inside our article prompt to create our headings. and then sending that same subheading back out to the AI writer to write content for us. And we have chosen to use the first prompt to write an article, and the next prompt is to create just a bullet point list. So let's run this and see the output. Here's the output of our article. As we specified, opening with a H2 tag. Here's our first subheading, exploring the benefits of green tea. And in the answer is written an article. As we move on down, we come to our next subheading, which is exploring the benefits and origins of green tea. And instead of just writing an article, it's created a bullet point list for us. Now, what you may have noticed as well is because we are using multiple prompts, this gets over the limitation of one prompt only generating about 700 words of content. By using multiple prompts, we can increase the word count of our article. Finally, the only other macro I will cover is the usage of the image one. So how this works is you have your open brackets. So once again, an instruction sent to the AI writer. However, it's a bit different because it starts off with this special tag that says image source base 64 and it says keyword. So what this does is it takes the current keyword of the article, goes to the AI image generator instead, and generates an image using the keyword, which is what is green tea. So it's going to create an image about green tea, and then it's going to return it as a base 64 data URL. So we can't actually use this as it is. We actually have to create an image tag. Let's do that now. And in source, we set the source of the image to base 64. So this is how you use the image macro to create a base 64 image. And we use that base 64 URL data and set it as a source of our image tag. So let's give this a run to see its output. Previewing the article, here's our image. Now the reason why we were using source equals was because the output of the image prompt is this. If you haven't seen this type of code before, it's your image represented as a base 64 string. And this string contains your image data. And that's the reason why if you didn't use an image tag, because we have an image as a string, you just get this very large string print out into your article. But because we tagged it to the source attribute of this image tag, we have this very nice looking image. And after that, we have our article. And this is the scraped content insert at work here. So that ends today's deep dive on AI macros. I'm sure you have some additional questions. Please feel free to reach out at seocontentmachine.com.